Since this episode is dropping during opening week of the 2024 NCAA college football season, we'll be giving away one signed copy of the actual moment captured in this episode. Head over to our Instagram at Shadow Clock Podcast to learn how to win a signed copy of the 1973 November issue of Sports Illustrated. And we'll be sure to have our guest, Drew Mahalic, who just happens to be featured on the cover, personally sign it for you. We hope you enjoyed this zoomed-in moment of Shadow Clock. Today's episode captures a moment that I grew up hearing about. It's a family story about my uncle, who played for Notre Dame back in the 70s. He later went on to play for both the San Diego Chargers and the Philadelphia Eagles between 1975 and 78. This moment, however, takes place during his Notre Dame years. The catalyst when Notre Dame took down Southern Cal's superstar running back, Anthony Davis. It would be a moment that was memorialized forever with just the click of a camera. And though Notre Dame did go on to win the championship that year, what I was most interested to zoom in on was the moment a 20-year-old college student, my uncle, Drew Mahalic, woke up to find himself on the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine. I'm Katie Mahalic, and you're listening to a zoomed-in moment of Shadow Clock. So, hello, Uncle Drew. Thank you for coming on my show today.
Well, I'm delighted to be here with you, Katie.
All right. Are you ready to talk about this moment?
I can't wait.
Before we get into this episode's moment, I'm going to have my uncle recap a little bit about how sports played a role in his life growing up. All important details that end up contributing to his success in football. And if you haven't caught on by now, it's the details of these stories that I love.
I loved football, basketball, and baseball. So baseball, was my true love, and football was probably the sport where I was least talented. But growing up, I was the youngest of three boys, and mostly what I did was I played with my older brother, Lance, your father, with his friends, and they were 4 years older than me. And so I had to play up to keep abreast of their talent, and it really made me a lot better. And my brother Lance was always taking me wherever we went to play ball. And frankly, we played ball every day. We played baseball the entire summer. Then we played basketball. My dad was our basketball coach. And then my dad was also our football coach as well. And when the fall came, we put away the bats and gloves and we brought out the football and just played football. So basically, I wound up going to a high school that tended to be a football high school, North Farmington High School in Michigan, and had a terrific coach with Ron Holland. And so he said, do I want to be like an All-American football player? And if so, I needed to go out for track and field, or did I want to play baseball and just be average in football? And given that our school was renowned for its football, I chose football.
And what position did you play?
I was the second team quarterback my junior year. And it was kind of funny. I went from second team my junior year to player of the year my senior year at quarterback. Simply, we had just an outstanding team and some terrific coaches. Ron Holland was light years ahead of other high school coaches at that time. And he gave us an advantage of excelling.
Okay, so you're in high school. You guys are fantastic. The team's fantastic. What year is it when you're a senior in high school?
This was 1970. We were state champs, undefeated. I'll tell you a story. When I was in fifth grade, our fifth grade teacher said, I want you to write your autobiography and project into the future what it's going to be like. And in my autobiography in fifth grade, I projected that I would be at Notre Dame. And that was the school I always wanted to go to. And sure enough, when I went on a recruiting trip to Notre Dame, they offered me a full scholarship. And I told them immediately, I'm in, because there was really no choice. Notre Dame really was the school of the future, if not the past, when I went to Notre Dame. And I think we had the best recruiting class of all time at Notre Dame my freshman year. We just had so many high school All-Americans. It was almost like destiny that by the time that we were, it was actually our junior year when we won the national championship at Notre Dame.
So you go to Notre Dame, you've projected this at fifth grade.
Right.
And you go on as a quarterback, or at this point, do you know you're going to be a linebacker? What's the story around that?
Well, I went thinking that there was nobody that could beat me out at quarterback. And then I got there and realized that there were 5 all-state quarterbacks at Notre Dame. And frankly, it was pretty clear that my style of play was not the same as what Notre Dame wanted. So the coach brought me in and said, well, here's your choice. On the varsity, you can be about ninth string quarterback, or you can start out at linebacker, and you could probably start. And so I made the switch and wound up starting at linebacker my sophomore year, which was a surprise to everybody because I was never really known for being a defensive guy. When I went to school, the earliest you could start for my year was sophomore year, and I did start my sophomore year.
Okay, so did you like it? Did you like the switch from quarterback to linebacker, or did that take a minute?
It took some adjusting. Initially, I was scared because I really didn't know what I was doing. But the one thing I did know is that if I hit harder than the guy that I was coming in contact with, it would hurt me less. And so I just decided I was going to hit everybody hard. And it kind of worked. And so the good news is that I never got hurt. I played mostly injury-free, and I wasn't beat up. And so I could really play well when I was playing linebacker.
My uncle ended up playing 4 games his freshman year at Notre Dame. And the reason I bring this up is because one of them just happened to be at the University of Tennessee, where I now teach since relocating from San Francisco. Truth be told, teaching here has given me a completely new perspective on sports. If you know me, you know that I'm not a diehard sports fan, though I have always loved the nostalgia that comes with sports stories. I can definitely get into a game when in the moment. That said, one thing UTK and its students have taught me is that the love of the game brings about an immense amount of community and school spirit that you can literally taste while walking on campus, something I hadn't experienced before living in Tennessee. I'm including this next little anecdote from my uncle to celebrate my own students and all the other Vols at Rocky Top.
We played the baby Vols down in Knoxville, Tennessee. They cleaned our clocks. They were just playing in their element. They had a quarterback named Condridge Holloway. He was frankly spectacular as a freshman. I believe he was the first African-American quarterback to start in the Southeastern Conference, and he had a fabulous game against us. They just wiped up the field with us, which was kind of interesting because our group still wound up winning the national championship 2 years later. But for that afternoon, it was a freshman game at Tennessee. We had never seen anything like it. It was nearly a sold-out stadium for the freshman ball team. That's the way the University of Tennessee supported their freshman football players. They had 40, 50,000 people there. And, they looked great in their orange and white uniforms. And they simply outplayed us. And what's interesting is that I was actually recruited by Tennessee to play quarterback for them. And if I had gone there, I would have been competing against Condridge Holloway. And frankly, he was better than me. And so I would have been a backup quarterback there. But yeah, they came to play and we didn't.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're in 1973, and by the time you're a junior, Notre Dame is undefeated during your season.
That's correct.
And you're playing against University of Southern California, the Trojans.
That's correct. We were focusing on that game all year long. We knew that was the game that we needed to win to get to the national championship, which we did. But USC was extraordinarily talented. The running back for USC was a guy named Anthony Davis. The year before, he had scored 6 touchdowns against us. It was a record for USC and a record against Notre Dame. He had an unbelievable performance.
It was Anthony Davis that my uncle and the rest of the Fighting Irish would have to stop in order to win this game, besides having to outplay the Trojans, who had been the national champion the year before. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, Notre Dame takes the national championship for that 1973-1974 season. It's no surprise that the game was going very well for the Irish. So it's a home game. They're playing up in Indiana. I see Notre Dame at this point is ahead 23-14. That's the score.
That is correct, yes.
What quarter are we in when your big tackle happens?
Well, it was toward the end of the game. I think it was in the fourth quarter. But at the time, frankly, it was just another play where we stopped them. I mean, there were a number of plays that we played so well, but that play, just frankly, that was the play that was captured on camera. The joke before the game was, be careful how you play, because one mistake And you could wind up on the cover of Sports Illustrated because the year before, and once again, Anthony Davis was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated a lot. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated running past some of our Notre Dame defenders, not me, but others. And so we knew that it was the most watched college football game of the season. And we knew all the cameras would be there, and they were. And so the pressure was on, but you have so much adrenaline going at that time. You don't think about media or anything. All you're thinking about is stopping, the number one team in the nation. And we did.
You brought up a good point here, right? You're saying that you're not thinking about media, you just have all this adrenaline, but these are kids, right? I think about this with my students too. And when I'm teaching my class and knowing when you see the stadium filled with all that orange here in Tennessee, what is it like for a college kid to be experiencing this kind of intensity as an athlete on the field?
Well, it's a major adrenaline rush. You get all this adrenaline pumping in your veins, and it allows you to do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do. You can run faster, you're stronger, you're more instinctive, you're in what's called the zone. And when you're in that zone, you're more than just a human being. You're frankly phenomenal. At Notre Dame, we were in that zone as a team. And frankly, we could do nothing wrong on that particular day when we were national champs and we beat USC that afternoon.
When that clock runs out, what was that like?
It was jubilation. It was confirmation that we were as good as we thought we were. We knew we were on the way, but we knew the job wasn't done yet. And that wouldn't happen until New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1973, in the Sugar Bowl when we beat Alabama.
And so with this jubilation, this is what made me think of Tennessee in 2022, of course, their big win against Alabama and the goalposts being torn down, right? Is it true Notre Dame did the same thing?
That's probably true, yeah. I mean, honestly, we weren't paying attention to that. We were just, frankly, focusing on celebrating with our teammates. It's one of the few times we were just really hugging each other, even hugging people that we didn't necessarily have, the best friendships with on the team. It all came together because it was a time when we all became one. It was one mind, one body, one spirit for a goal, and it really worked.
I also read that John McKay, the coach of USC, left the field humming Notre Dame's fight song. Do you know if that's true?
It wouldn't be surprising. I mean, he's an Irishman, and we were the Fighting Irish. And I actually played for John McKay the following year in the College All-American Chicago Tribune All-Star game. And I liked him. I thought he was a pretty good guy.
All right. So we're moving into the big moment, the moment that inspired this particular episode. Is it a week later? 1 week later?
Yeah, it was several days later. Somebody came into my room and I was sleeping, and he just held up the Sports Illustrated in front of me. And my eyes popped and I went, wow. And that's how I found out that I was on the cover.
That cover for the November 5th, 1973 issue of Sports Illustrated, which sold in stores for 60 cents a copy, would grace the walls of my grandparents' living room for years to come. Hanging proudly over the big wooden console box-frame television, the tackle replayed itself over and over again, becoming a fixture in my family's history. I've seen it so often, I don't really even have to look at the photograph to describe it to you. Encased in a sea of Notre Dame blue and gold, with splashes of USC's cardinal red, is my uncle, the back of his jersey, and number 45, boldly front and center. You can almost feel the impact as he surges up and under Anthony Davis, taking him down while the rest of the players cascade into the pile. It's a moment of raw power and determination, frozen in time. The headline reads, Notre Dame stacks up USC, followed by a subheading, Anthony Davis goes nowhere. You can see the picture for yourself on our website and social media pages.
Interestingly enough, the guy that was holding the magazine above me was the guy that my wife had dated before me. So there's a connection there that I'll always remember. But it was a surprise, and frankly, the whole campus was excited that we had made the cover because it looked like my tackle, but there were, two other Notre Dame players featured, Katempa and Browner. And it really showed that it was a team tackle. And we just loved the headline, Notre Dame stacks up USC. And that's really what we did.
It had to be so surreal.
It was, yeah. And I'm going to admit something to you, Katie, that I rarely admit to anybody. But on the cover of Sports Illustrated, it looks as if I am the key guy making the tackle. The truth is, there were other players, Gary Katempa and Ross Browner, Mike Fanning and Greg Collins, who actually got to Anthony Davis first. I got to him at what you would call at the cleanup time, which means he was virtually stopped. But I came in and cleaned it up, and that's when the camera shot. And they say pictures don't lie. Well, this picture was extremely flattering to make me look as if I had done it all myself. And it was really far from the truth. But you know what? I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the publicity around the cover. And interestingly enough, I still get monthly postage, mailings of people sending me the cover, asking me to autograph it and send it back, which I do. But even, it's over 50 years and I'm still getting people mailing me the Sports Illustrated cover for my autograph. So it's kind of interesting.
No kidding. And I haven't asked for that autograph yet. So I guess I better get up on my game there. And by the way, what a modest moment from you. This is kind of a major moment in my life. So I really appreciated that insight. So what I think is so crazy is that after all these years, you're being sent the cover to sign. And then I'm thinking of Anthony Davis, who was an amazing player, right? I mean, what an amazing tackle by you and your fellow teammates to take him down. And yet now frozen in time is the byline on the cover that says Notre Dame stacks up USC, Anthony Davis goes nowhere. I can't even imagine being him for 50 years, seeing that written.
Here's a little bit more context. When that football season began, Anthony Davis was on the cover by himself on Sports Illustrated under the caption, Best of the Best. That's how good he was. And, when I said that a lot of people still send me the cover of the Sports Illustrated to autograph, a lot of times they're sending it to everybody that appeared on that cover. And I often get the cover with Anthony Davis already having his signature on it. And underneath his signature, he writes Notre Dame Killer.
No, really?
Yeah. Well, that's because we played him 3 times and he did kill us 2 out of 3 times. But for that moment, he didn't. But basically, the Sports Illustrated tended to memorialize a magic moment in my life. And that's why it stands out. But there were many moments like that. And if that camera had not captured it, I probably, frankly, would have thought nothing of it. And so it was the most memorialized highlight of my career in that it was captured forever. The truth is that now you know more about that photo than about 99.9% of anybody at Notre Dame. So you really did a great job of uncovering the story behind the story.
Thanks. That's what I love to do. I do love doing that. Shadow Clock is an independent out-of-pocket podcast. If you feel so inclined to donate, head over to our website at shadow-clock.com and click the contribution button. All monetary contributions go towards pumping out our next episode. This episode of Shadow Clock is created by me. Post-production audio is by Jessica Sturgeon. Social media is managed by Spencer Masternak. Kate Cosgrove creates original illustrations for each episode of Shadow Clock, which you can also see at shadow-clock.com. Music is credited to Pond 5 and Internet Archive at archive.org in association with Pralinger Archives. Content contributors, composers, and individual song titles for each episode can be found on our website at shadow-clock.com. If you like today's story, which focuses on a smaller moment in life, take a listen to our longer episodes that are not specifically specified as a zoomed-in moment. Our non-zoomed-in moment episodes tell the tales of more complex true-life moments that will take you through the twists and turns of life's journey. Don't miss hearing from Bob, a former bank robber who did 5 years in Alcatraz Penitentiary, or biologist Diego, who was kidnapped while doing fieldwork in Colombia. And you definitely want to hear about the 150-year-old mummified remains of a child discovered in the backyard of a San Francisco home. If you like the show, spread the word by telling someone else about Shadow Clock. And of course, by following us on social media. The more people who know about Shadow Clock, the more people we can keep sharing these true life moments with. Thank you to Alejandro Velez, Kate Cosgrove, Matt Sorrow, Spencer Masternak, Adam Gould, Bruce Sibley, Jessica Sturgeon, Alec Jansen, Adam Zavezlak, Michael Mahalic, Mary Brem, Miles Brem, Cindy Mahalic-Hickerson, Scott Batista, Omar Al-Masharawi, Rachel Bellenvon, and Forest Hills Northern High School in Michigan. And of course, a huge thank you once again to Drew Mahalic, my uncle, for sharing this story with me. I'm Katie Mahalic, and this is a zoomed-in moment episode of Shadow Clock.